My nephew should be dead. Now, that is not hyperbole at all. With the big abomination thing bill that just passed, he might end up dead. Let me explain. He is a liver transplant recipient and was as an infant when it was still kind of an experimental thing. To give a perspective, he was born in 1987. Johns Hopkins Medical Center, Johns Hopkins, they did their first adult liver transplant in 1986. Their first attempted infant liver transplant was the following year. The first infant transplant attempted was 20 years prior to his birth, I believe it was in 1967. That baby had the same condition as my nephew, biliary atresia, and died on the operating table. When my nephew was born, his parents were very young. My brother, his father, was 21 years old. He and his wife worked hard, but they had hourly jobs. They didn't have salaries or educations. Their options at the time were basically, your son is likely going to die. We can make him as comfortable as we can. Technically, there are some places in other states that are experimenting with liver transplants on infants, but you can't afford that. In order to pay for his medical bills, even the ones just keeping him alive, for his first year of life, they would have had to essentially go on Medicaid and then live in poverty and have government welfare, food stamps, all of that stuff just to survive. If they made $1 more than what the government decided was above poverty, then they would be kicked off and then medical bills would not be paid. He was quickly racking up medical bills, as you can imagine. Because my brother was in very good physical condition and has grit like you would not believe, stubborn as everything, he was able to get through basic training in the Air Force, and they paid for the medical care. And because they paid for the medical care and it was the military, doctors were somewhat more willing to do things to extend my nephew's life that people on Medicaid would not necessarily have access to. Even so, the doctors were saying it's more likely he'll just die, let's just let him go. And his parents were not cool with that. They were going to fight tooth and nail. He had gone through freaking basic training, my brother had, to make sure his son had a chance at life. They managed to keep him alive for a year. That was the minimum that they would even attempt a transplant. I was a young teenager at this point, so I don't recall all the details, but thanks to his medical condition and all of that, my brother was able to be assigned to a base in Nebraska where they actually were near a center that they did transplants. Because back then, this was, again, still very experimental. Cyclosporin, the anti-rejection drug, was pretty new. It came on the market in the early to mid 80s. They could find an infant deceased liver that they can then attempt to transplant, but they're afraid his blood supply is too small to accept it. They almost don't do it. They do anyway. Transplant is a success at first, but then after a couple of months, there's some infections, massive complications. He flatlined more than once. He was literally on the brink of death, and we were planning his funeral. It was the most intense, horrifying, you would not believe, but eventually he pulled through. Oh, here's the thing. My brother and his wife went on, thanks to the fact that he could be in the military and not on government assistance for the rest of their lives. And they're still together, by the way. They're close to their 40th anniversary. They both have advanced degrees. He has an MPA, she has a doctorate in nursing, and she is the associate dean of nursing at a big university. They have gone on to be contributing members of society in a big way. She has served on federal boards for medical things, done research, and their son, he's still here. He's in his 30s now. He has a master's degree. He has a wife and 3 children. All of the babies that he was in the hospital with, who also had transplants about the same time, they have all died. He is alive today because, again, his parents are stubborn as anything. They would fight to make sure he could live. And they had the possibility of doing so because my brother was able to pass basic training and get into the military. That should not be the case, just to save your kid's life, for crap's sake. He had a lot of major doses of divine intervention several times over. They kept him alive, as well as medical advances. Now with a big, beautiful bill. Piece of crap bill is what it is. With the way it is going to be cutting Medicaid and Medicare, he's not on Medicaid, to be clear, thanks to a lot of things. Among them, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. The ACA made it illegal for people with pre-existing conditions, like my nephew, to be denied insurance. The cuts to Medicaid. Where Medicaid goes, commercial insurance follows. So if they start cutting certain things and start denying certain things, and if the ACA is repealed, as the GOP has been trying to do for forever, my nephew will not be able to get coverage of any kind. He relies on anti-rejection medications. He's still on cyclosporin. There are much better anti-rejection medications now, but you can try to scooch over, and then if you start to go into rejection, you got to go back to the one you started with. He's only one of a handful of people still living on cyclosporin because they moved on to other things, and most people who got transplants on cyclosporin in the 80s are dead. He's a contributing member to society, no thanks to the American medical system. His parents have been hugely contributors to society, no thanks to the American medical system. If everybody could have the benefits of the things that the military gets, you would not have people relying on public assistance forever. Oh, if you would just work hard. No, they had done the math and they realized no matter how hard they worked, no matter what they did, if they took on the government assistance, they would not be able to live out of poverty. She would not have been able to get a doctorate degree. She would not be a professor today. He would not have an advanced degree either. And I can guarantee their son would not be alive, let alone be a husband and father of 3 children. And that is only one story that I have personal, intimate knowledge of about our screwed up medical system, for starters. But also, people think it's just stupid handouts. This is saving lives. Lives of people who can contribute to society, can contribute tax money, all of the things that you claim you want. And you want to cut it just in case there are a couple people who are gaming the system. I would suggest first do no harm. Are there people who are gaming it? Possibly, but it's so hard to game. I know people who've been on unemployment, who've been on Medicaid. It is so hard. All of the proof you have to do, all the hoops you have to jump through to make sure you're not gaming the system, you're not scamming anybody. We're doing harm. We are doing harm by kicking people off. Even the work requirement, it's a catch-22 situation. You must work this many hours a month, but if you work that many hours a month, you might make just a little bit more money than you should if you're going to qualify, so you're kicked off anyway. There are people who have been injured at work who can't work, who were stay-at-home moms and raised entire families and don't have maybe a degree or career experience, and then they get brain cancer. There's no bootstrapping your way out of this, and we're punishing people. I know of a woman in Utah. She is disabled, but she has a full-time job. She always has, but she does get some disability help from the government. However, if things happen to cross just wrong, say her rent doesn't come out before her next paycheck drops, then it might look for like 24 hours that she makes more money than she's supposed to, but she doesn't. It all looks bad. The government looks at that and they can kick her off, and they have, and she's had to fight it. We should not be punishing people for trying to make their lives better and for actually just surviving. It's disgusting.